Alex Wren had never been good at finding his way around the corridors of the Aurora's edge. The ship was vast, a labyrinth of polished metal walls, humming conduits, and blinking panels. Each deck had a purpose, yet the layout seemed intentionally designed to confuse newcomers. Even after 6 months aboard, Alex sometimes found himself wandering in circles. Tonight, he was heading toward the medbay. He had been running a series of late-night experiments, testing the ship's long-range sensors, and fatigue was beginning to show in his slow steps and half-focused gaze. The lights hummed faintly overhead, casting long reflections on the smooth floor. Alex felt the weight of the day pressing on him. He had been working with Zyra, the Virelian scientist, for months now. She had a calm presence, a natural curiosity, and a sense of humor that balanced the rigid discipline of the crew. They had grown close, not romantically, but in a way that spoke of trust and understanding that often eluded humans and aliens working together. Lost in thought, Alex approached what he thought was the medbay door. His hand reached for the handle, and with a tired sigh, he pushed it open. The room he stepped into was not the medbay. The air was warmer, scented faintly with exotic herbs and something metallic that Alex didn't recognize. The soft glow of alien bioluminescent panels illuminated the space, highlighting shapes and forms that were unfamiliar. He froze. There in the center of the room stood Zyra. Her form was humanoid but not human. Her skin glimmered with subtle shifts of color, like liquid light moving beneath a smooth surface. She had delicate, elongated limbs and faintly luminescent antennae that twitched slightly as she sensed his presence. Zyra was in the middle of changing. She had a tunic in her hands and was stepping into it. The sight made Alex's heart thump violently in his chest. His brain froze. Every instinct screamed to apologize and retreat, but his feet seemed rooted to the floor. Zyra paused, her antennae quivering. Then came the sound, a soft, melodic whistle of surprise, almost musical, almost amused. "Alex," she asked, tilting her head. Her eyes glimmered like polished opal catching the light. I'm so sorry," Alex stammered, stepping back. "I thought this was, the medbay." "I didn't know." Zyra's laugh was soft, flowing like water over smooth stones. It was not harsh or judgmental, but it carried a teasing note. "You humans are always in a hurry," she said in accented English. Her voice had a richness and tone that carried emotions vividly. "Always rushing, always opening the wrong doors." Alex's face burned. He ducked his head, muttering, Sorry, I should go." He stumbled backward toward the door, trying to regain his composure. Zyra, still holding her tunic, shook her head. "No, no. You may enter if you wish, but only if you promise not to faint from shock." She gave him a small, encouraging smile that somehow made him feel both embarrassed and oddly calm. Alex swallowed hard, realizing that the situation was not as catastrophic as he had imagined. Zyra did not seem angry. In fact, she seemed amused, almost entertained by the blunder. It was a relief, but it did not erase the awkwardness that flooded his body. He stepped out of the room, carefully closing the door behind him, and leaned against the cold metal wall of the corridor. He could still hear her soft laughter echoing in his mind. Alex shook his head. Of all the days, of all the doors, he thought. His friendship with Zyra had been easy until now, comfortable in its simplicity. And yet, this accidental intrusion had opened a new door of curiosity. Not about her body, not in a way that would be inappropriate, but about her life, her species, and the culture she carried with her. He made his way to the medbay, finally reaching it with his usual mix of relief and exhaustion. Inside, the medical android was performing routine maintenance, unaware of Alex's inner turmoil. Alex sank into a chair, rubbing his face. He had to calm himself, remind himself that this was simply an accident. And yet he could not help but replay the moment repeatedly in his mind. Later that evening, he found himself in the lab, attempting to focus on sensor readings. Zyra was there, naturally, tinkering with her equipment, completely unfazed. She looked up at him with a faint smile. "Do not let it trouble you," she said. "Humans often feel discomfort in the presence of what is unfamiliar. It is understandable." Alex nodded, grateful for her calm. I didn't mean to invade your privacy," he said. I feel terrible." Zyra leaned back slightly, observing him with those opal eyes. "Privacy is different for Virelians. We value solitude, yes, but it is not shameful to be seen as we are. You see me, you know me better. It is human to worry. But you have learned quickly that trust is stronger than embarrassment." Her words struck a chord. Alex realized that the incident, while awkward, had deepened their connection in a subtle way. He admired her culture, her perspective, her calmness in a situation that would have caused many humans to react with anger or embarrassment. And he knew, without saying it aloud, that he was beginning to see humanity in a new light through her eyes, and hers through his. Over the next few days, Alex found himself observing Zyra more closely, not in a prying way, but with curiosity and respect. He watched her work in the lab, how she handled delicate instruments, how she adjusted the glowing panels to suit the energy flow of the room. She moved with precision, grace, and confidence. She communicated with a series of melodic tones, gestures, and subtle changes in skin color that were as expressive as words. Alex began to take notes, not for work, but for understanding. He wanted to understand her, the species she represented, and the intelligence she carried. He asked questions, innocent, respectful questions, about her habits, her rituals, and her routines. Zyra answered freely, explaining the small details that made her life different from his, yet strikingly similar in the need for comfort, security, and companionship. One evening, as they were both working late, Alex commented, "It must be strange being here among humans all the time, so different from Violia." Zyra tilted her head, antennae flicking. "It is different, and yet you humans have courage, adaptability. I admire your species. You make mistakes, yes, but you also learn quickly. You act when action is required, and you feel when feeling is needed. It is rare among the civilizations I have encountered." Alex paused, absorbing her words. He realized that this was more than a compliment. Zyra was acknowledging humanity's unique strengths, not physical power or technology, but ingenuity, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. These were traits humans often underestimated in themselves, yet they shone brightly in situations of uncertainty and risk. As the days passed, Alex and Zyra developed a routine. They shared meals in the observation lounge, discussing experiments, galactic news, and occasionally laughing at human misunderstandings of alien culture. The accidental door incident became a running joke between them, a light-hearted memory that reminded Alex of the value of trust and respect. One quiet night, the ship's sensors detected unusual activity in the nearby sector. The crew was alerted, and a tense energy spread through the ship. Alex and Zyra were called to the command deck to assist. The readings were ambiguous, signals that could belong to a natural phenomenon or an artificial vessel. Whatever it was, it required analysis, strategy, and quick thinking. Alex found himself beside Zyra, combining his human instincts with her alien knowledge. He suggested patterns in the signals that she had not considered, improvising solutions that demonstrated the strength she had praised. Zyra observed, impressed, as human ingenuity adapted to the unexpected. Later, when the immediate threat subsided, a minor anomaly that posed no danger, Zyra turned to Alex. "You have human courage, not the physical kind, though you have that too, the courage of the mind and heart. It is rare and valuable." Alex smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He realized that the incident with the wrong door had been a strange kind of gift. It had forced him to confront his own embarrassment, to reflect on cultural differences, and to recognize the strengths and value of humanity in a way he had never appreciated before. And as he left the command deck that night, heading toward his quarters, he caught himself glancing at the familiar glow of Zyra's lab, thinking about the bond that had grown stronger, not weaker, from an accidental and awkward moment. He knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more discoveries, and perhaps more awkward doors, but he felt ready. Ready to face them, ready to learn, ready to act. Because in the galaxy, sometimes mistakes opened doors. And sometimes, those doors revealed the true power of humanity. The days following Alex's accidental intrusion into Zyra's quarters passed quietly, yet a subtle tension lingered in his thoughts. He tried to focus on routine tasks, sensor calibrations, lab experiments, inventory checks, but his mind kept drifting back to Zyra, not in a personal way, but in wonder. He wanted to understand her, her species, her way of life. Humans often took their habits and routines for granted, assuming that everyone else behaved the same. But Zyra was different, and the universe was bigger than he had ever imagined. One morning, as Alex entered the lab, he found Zyra already at work, adjusting a complex array of crystalline sensors that glimmered faintly with violet light. The room smelled faintly of Virean herbs and warm metal, a scent that had become familiar and oddly comforting. "Good morning," he said, trying to sound casual. "I was thinking maybe you could explain more about your species, about your routines, your personal habits." Zyra paused, her antennae flicking with curiosity. "Personal habits? You mean how Vireans dress, eat, and organize life?" Alex nodded, careful to keep his tone neutral. "Yes, I want to understand. I think it helps me respect your culture better." Zyra considered him for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Very well, but be prepared. Some of it may seem unusual to humans, and some of it may challenge your assumptions." Alex leaned forward, eager, and sat down on the edge of a counter. Zyra began explaining. She described the Virean practice of daily energy alignment, a ritual where they adjusted their skin patterns and internal bioluminescence to optimize their mental focus. She explained their food intake cycles, which depended on ambient light levels, and their method of personal hygiene, which involved careful absorption of minerals through specialized bathing fluids rather than traditional washing. Alex listened intently. He asked questions, sometimes naively, sometimes thoughtfully, and Zyra answered patiently. She laughed softly when he asked how they handled modesty, explaining that their species had a different concept of privacy, one that was not shameful but rather based on mutual respect and consent. "You humans," she said, "are easily embarrassed by what you consider private. But in Virelia, trust is demonstrated by openness, not concealment. When I allowed you to see me, you saw more than skin. You saw understanding and respect." Alex nodded, reflecting on the moment he had stumbled into her quarters. He realized that what had initially embarrassed him had also taught him a lesson in humility and patience. He had assumed the worst about the situation, expecting anger or punishment, but Zyra had turned it into a learning moment. Their discussion continued late into the afternoon, moving from personal habits to broader cultural differences. Zyra explained Virean communication methods, how subtle shifts in skin color and tone conveyed complex emotions, how antennae movements could indicate uncertainty or curiosity, and how melodic vocalizations replaced many spoken words. Alex marveled at the intricacy, noting similarities to human nonverbal cues but amplified in clarity and purpose. As the conversation wound down, the ship's sensors began to pick up an unusual pattern near the outer rim of the sector. Alex's mind shifted immediately from curiosity to concern. "Zyra, look at this," he said, pointing to the data on the holoscreen. "There's a signal pattern here. It's structured, not random." Zyra's eyes glimmered as she leaned closer. "It could be a probe or a reconnaissance vessel. Either way, it is significant. We must analyze it carefully." The two of them worked together, combining Alex's human intuition with Zyra's alien technological expertise. He suggested scanning techniques that incorporated unpredictable variations, a method inspired by human improvisation. Zyra adapted quickly, incorporating the idea into her precise calculations. The pattern they observed appeared intelligent, capable of responding to their scans almost in real time. As the hours passed, Alex felt a rush of excitement. His instincts, his ability to improvise and adapt were proving valuable. He realized that humans' greatest strength was not brute force or technological might, but the combination of creativity, emotional intelligence, and quick thinking. Zyra noticed, too, her eyes reflecting respect and curiosity. "We may have underestimated humans," she said softly, almost to herself. "Your species adapts rapidly. You perceive patterns others may miss. You feel deeply and yet act decisively. It is rare." Alex felt a thrill of pride, though he kept it hidden behind calm gestures. He had always known humans were capable, but hearing it from someone like Zyra, someone who represented a highly advanced alien civilization, made it tangible. The ship's captain called them to the observation deck. The signal had intensified, revealing a shimmering object approaching the system. The crew gathered, tense, unsure if this was a threat or a simple anomaly. Alex stood beside Zyra, feeling the weight of responsibility and the unique bond that had formed between them. The object was revealed on the holoscreen, a sleek, multifaceted vessel, unlike any human or Virean ship Alex had seen. It moved with precision, scanning the system, analyzing data, and showing intelligence in its actions. The crew whispered among themselves, fear mingled with curiosity. Zyra turned to Alex. "Your human instincts will be needed. Your perspective is unique. You must observe, interpret, and act where logic may falter. Alex swallowed, feeling the pressure but also a surge of determination. This was the moment humanity could shine, and with Zyra by his side, he was ready to rise to the occasion. Over the next few hours, Alex worked tirelessly with Zyra. He proposed a series of signals designed to communicate intention without revealing vulnerability. Zyra integrated these into the ship's systems, creating a layered, responsive approach that combined human unpredictability with Virelian precision. The alien vessel responded almost immediately. Its sensors adjusted, its movements mirrored their own. Alex realized with awe that the humans and Virelians on the Aurora's edge were participating in a delicate dance of first contact, a negotiation of understanding without words, relying on insight, observation, and trust. Throughout the process, Alex noticed subtle cues in Zyra's behavior, tiny shifts in skin coloration when she anticipated a response, delicate flicks of her antennae signaling caution. He began to understand not just the technology, but the emotional rhythm of her species, the silent language that underpinned every decision. By the end of the encounter, the alien vessel moved on, having gathered its data and retreated without aggression. The crew released a collective sigh of relief. Alex leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. Zyra smiled faintly, her eyes luminous. "You acted well," she said. "Your species has value beyond expectation, adaptability, empathy, insight. You humans possess qualities that many civilizations overlook." Alex nodded, humbled. He realized that this moment, this collaboration, this recognition, was what HFY was all about. It was not about weapons or dominance, but about intellect, courage, and the human spirit. In the quiet that followed, Alex and Zyra returned to their lab. He felt closer to her than ever before, not because of the awkward incident of the wrong door, but because they had worked together in a way that transcended culture and biology. They had faced the unknown as equals, combining strengths and earning respect through action and understanding. Zyra adjusted a sensor array and glanced at Alex. "I am glad the wrong door was opened," she said softly. "It led to insight and trust." Alex chuckled, shaking his head. "I think I'll still try to avoid opening the wrong doors, but I understand. Sometimes mistakes lead to the right moments." They both laughed quietly, the tension of the day easing. Outside, the stars shimmered through the observation windows, distant suns and galaxies stretching across the void. Alex felt a sense of pride, not just for himself, but for humanity. In the vast, uncaring galaxy, humans could shine, not through brute strength, but through heart, mind, and ingenuity. The night passed with calm conversations and shared observations. Alex marveled at Zyra's ability to read subtle shifts in her environment, to predict changes in the ship's systems, to interpret data with elegance and precision. He compared it to human intuition, realizing that when combined, their skills were formidable. By the time Alex returned to his quarters, he felt both exhausted and exhilarated. He had faced uncertainty, navigated cultural gaps, and contributed meaningfully to a situation that could have gone badly. And he had done so with a friend, an ally, a teacher, and a companion in Zyra. As he lay down, staring at the ceiling, Alex reflected on the irony of the past week. One accidental door had led to embarrassment, curiosity, and ultimately, understanding. One human mistake had revealed the depth of cross-species collaboration and the unique value of human qualities. He drifted to sleep with a quiet sense of purpose, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at him next. Humanity, he realized, had a way of proving itself in the most unexpected ways. And Zyra, somewhere down the corridor, was likely reflecting on the same truth. Humans were messy, unpredictable, and sometimes foolish. But when it mattered most, they were extraordinary. The morning after the alien vessel had retreated, the ship Aurora's edge seemed almost eerily. "Come." The crew moved about their tasks with quiet diligence, processing data, running system diagnostics, and preparing reports. Yet beneath the normal routine, a sense of anticipation lingered. Every human aboard understood that the universe was watching them, even if only in faint glimmers of curiosity and observation from distant intelligences. Alex Wren arrived at the lab early, before the majority of the crew. His mind still buzzed from the previous night's events. The signals, the improvisation, the way Zyra had guided him while letting him contribute fully, It had been exhilarating. He had seen firsthand that humans were capable of more than they often realized. Not strength, not speed, not sheer technology, but thought, ingenuity, and courage. Zyra was already there, adjusting a panel of crystalline sensors that emitted soft pulses of violet and cyan. The lab smelled faintly of warm metal and the violin herbs that had become her signature. She looked up as Alex entered. "You are early," she said, her melodic tone carrying curiosity rather than judgment. "The humans sleep, but the stars do not." Alex smiled tiredly. "I couldn't stop thinking, what if that vessel returns? What if it wasn't just curious?" Zyra's eyes flickered with a subtle shade of amber, signaling contemplation. "Then we must be ready, and if it returns, we will show them the value of humans, not through weapons. Not through dominance, but through insight and cooperation." Her words struck a chord. Alex had spent much of his life measuring worth through conventional metrics, strength, skill, success in familiar arenas. But this was something different. Something uniquely human: creativity under pressure, empathy in action, trust without guarantee. Over the next few hours, they worked together to prepare. Zyra fine-tuned the sensors, while Alex proposed strategies based on patterns he had observed in the vessel's movement. Each suggestion he made was considered carefully, often leading to solutions neither had thought of alone. It was collaboration in its purest form, human intuition complemented by alien precision. As the hours passed, a soft alarm echoed through the ship. The vessel had returned. Unlike before, it moved deliberately this time, scanning not just the outer sector but specific points in the ship's path. Its presence was silent yet imposing, a silent test of readiness. The crew gathered on the observation deck, tension evident in every stance, every glance. Alex felt a familiar surge of focus. The moment had come to apply all they had learned together. He and Zyra stood side by side, watching the alien vessel's movements projected in the holoscreen. Zyra's skin shifted subtly, a visual indicator of her concentration. She whispered to him, "Observe, respond, act when human insight is needed. This is our moment." Alex nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He began scanning patterns in the alien vessel's response to their previous signals. There were subtle irregularities, slight pauses in its movement that suggested decision-making. Alex realized that the vessel was testing them, not threatening, but evaluating. He proposed a series of adaptive signals, combining human unpredictability with Zyra's calculated precision. Each signal was carefully crafted, conveying intention while leaving room for interpretation. Zyra adjusted the frequency modulation, integrating his improvisations with her alien technology. The vessel responded almost immediately. Its surface shimmered, reacting to their signals, and it shifted slightly, mirroring some of their patterns. Alex felt a thrill. They were communicating, not through words, not through aggression, but through understanding, insight, and ingenuity. Hours passed in this delicate exchange. The crew watched in awe as humans and Violians collaborated seamlessly. Alex observed Zyra's subtle cues, antennae movements, shifts in skin coloration, and melodic vocalizations. Each gesture carried meaning, guiding his responses. In turn, his adjustments, born of intuition and rapid observation, fed back into their strategy. It was a dance of intellect and instinct, a conversation of minds across species. Finally, the alien vessel halted. Its shimmering surface reflected the stars, then pulsed with a soft light. On the holoscreen, a symbol appeared, a complex geometric pattern that seemed almost like a greeting. Zyra interpreted it quickly, acknowledgement. The vessel had recognized humans as a species worthy of notice. The crew exhaled, tension easing. Alex felt a mixture of pride, relief, and amazement. Humanity, in its simplicity, its adaptability, its capacity for thought and emotion, had impressed a species far beyond their own. Zyra turned to him, her skin glowing faintly with shades of green and gold, Violian approval. "You have done well," she said, her tone soft yet full of admiration. "Humans possess a strength often overlooked: creativity, courage, empathy. You demonstrated these qualities when it mattered most." Alex felt a warmth in his chest, not just for the recognition, but for the realization that the awkward moments, the mistakes, the curiosity, they had all led to this. He thought back to the day he had opened the wrong door. At the time, it had been embarrassing, shocking even. But in hindsight, it had been the beginning of trust, understanding, and collaboration. The vessel moved on, retreating into the depths of space. It left behind data, insights, and a quiet sense of cosmic acknowledgement. Humanity had been noted, evaluated, and respected. Not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as beings capable of thought, emotion, and action. In the quiet that followed, Alex and Zyra returned to the lab. Zyra adjusted a sensor array, then looked at him with a smile. "I am glad the wrong door was opened," she said softly. "It led to understanding, to trust, to recognition." Alex chuckled, shaking his head. "I still think I'll avoid opening the wrong doors, but I understand now, sometimes mistakes reveal more than intention ever could." They worked in companionable silence for a while, reviewing the data left behind by the vessel. Alex noted patterns, correlations, and anomalies, while Zyra analyzed energy signatures and communication rhythms. Together, they pieced together a fuller understanding of the intelligence that had visited them. Later in the observation deck, they stood side by side, watching distant suns rise over the horizon of the exoplanet below. Zyra spoke, her voice quiet and reflective. "You humans are remarkable. You make errors, yes, but your ability to learn, to adapt, to act with courage and insight, it is unique." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I've learned a lot from you too," he said, "about patience, observation, and perspective. And about trust. Humans can be impulsive, but with guidance we can achieve extraordinary things." Zyra tilted her head, antennae flicking lightly. "Then perhaps together, humans and Virelians can face the universe as equals. Your species has potential. Your heart, your mind, they are instruments of power in their own right." The night deepened around them, stars stretching across the void. Alex felt a quiet sense of purpose, a recognition that humanity's journey was only beginning. They had survived a test, communicated across species, and demonstrated the qualities that made them exceptional. He reflected on the day's events, the initial embarrassment, the cultural lessons, the collaborative problem-solving. Each moment had built upon the last, culminating in a demonstration of human potential that transcended fear and uncertainty. Zyra observed him silently for a moment, then spoke with a tone that carried both humor and admiration. "Do not worry, you will make mistakes again. But I trust you to learn from them. That is what defines humans, your resilience." Alex laughed softly. "I'll try to keep them small." As they turned back toward the lab, reviewing final reports and preparing systems for the next day, Alex realized something profound. Humanity's strength lay not just in technology or physical prowess, but in the mind, the heart, and the capacity to act with purpose when it mattered most. And Zyra, with her grace, insight, and patience, had become more than a friend or colleague. She had become a mirror, reflecting the best qualities of humanity back to him, and confirming what he had always suspected. Humans could shine, even in the cold expanse of space, even when judged by the standards of a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. Alex felt a renewed sense of determination. There would be more challenges, more unknowns, more doors opened by accident or intention. But he knew now that humans were ready, not just to survive, but to thrive, to adapt, to inspire, and to earn the respect of the cosmos. As he left the observation deck, the stars glittering above and below, he thought of the wrong door, of Zyra's laughter, of the lessons learned in curiosity and trust. It was ironic that a single moment of embarrassment had led to such profound understanding, but that was the nature of life, of friendship, and of humanity. He smiled, knowing that the journey had only just begun. And somewhere down the corridor, Zyra was likely reflecting on the same truth. Humans were unpredictable, messy, and sometimes foolish, but when it counted, they could achieve greatness. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns and tests, but humanity had proven it could rise. And Alex, walking back to his quarters, felt proud, not just of himself, but of every human capable of thought, courage, and heart. Because sometimes, opening the wrong door led to the right revelations. And sometimes, humans, in all their imperfect glory, shone brighter than anyone expected.